Hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, brother. How you doing?
Okay. Good, man. How are you?
Doing good, man. I'm feeling good
Hey.
now. I see my boy on.
Yeah. Yes, sir, man. How are you?
Huge fan, my boy.
I appreciate having me on, man. Thank you.
Oh, of course, brother. We got a couple questions, man. Welcome to Deep in the Swamp. This is the backyard of the swamp. Literally, we in Gainesville, about 5 minutes away from the stadium, 10 minutes. I am. MG's like a couple hours.
Cool. Good
oh,
stuff, man. So you go to a lot of
Yeah,
games then?
oh yeah.
but I'm yeah, I'm back home for the weekend, so like that's why I'm in this state because the internet bad here, and I don't know if I can my stuff will work out here, so
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm out in the country. Uh,
So my boy, I'm gonna start off with the first question, man, because I've been waiting for this for a long time.
For sure.
So my first question is, I've been wanting to ask this from the first start, man. What does it feel like to start a podcast with a Florida State fan?
That's a good question.
Oh yeah,
Look, Holly was a good buddy. I love him to death. He's super knowledgeable. I loved it. I think it's the way to go because it's easy to get in your own thoughts and buy into it, especially when somebody agrees with you. So to have somebody that doesn't agree with everything that you say, I think it helps you evolve as a speaker, and it provides for you to come with the facts. It keeps you sharp, keeps you on your game. Because if you're just talking with somebody who constantly agrees with you,
yeah,
I don't think you grow. Same thing with a good partner, right? Same thing with a wife. If she's not questioning you and the moves that you're making, you're not gonna,
right.
you can kind of make some bad decisions. So being able to start something like that with him, who would push back because obviously he's not a Gator fan, and I know his perspective wasn't, it was biased, but I also know that it wasn't, you know, he wasn't just gonna say yes because we like the same thing. So I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well, obviously. MG,
Yeah, yeah.
um, practically like, what was it that made you actually want to get into doing like the Florida Gator podcast? What was it that motivated you to get into doing it?
Yeah, so I went to school. I always grew up loving the likes of like Stephen A. Smith, Colin Coward, those guys. They kind of always have. I looked up to them. I just loved the way that somebody that could talk and make you feel. Mick Hubert obviously was another big one. When they can make you see and feel a certain way just by the words that are coming out of their mouth. I've always enjoyed that and making somebody. It's an entertainment, right? It entertains somebody, make them laugh, make them giggle. I've always
Yeah,
enjoyed that
yeah,
part of it. So I've always wanted to do it. Went to school for it. It's a little bit tougher than people realize. I was on a little small podcast, and then kind of got away from it. But I always was around cameras, making
yeah,
videos, and I just kind of, I was like, I missed it. I was like, I want to get back to it. I know enough to make my own. Holly, obviously, you guys know I'm great voice, great knowledge. I was like, hey man, you want to just start this damn thing? He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, moving into this new house. I got the whole setup. Let's rock. And then kind of just sat down, click record, and started talking football. And then the rest kind of just fell into place. We kept posting things, talked what we loved, which was football. Gator football is one of those things, and it was cool to see the reaction from Gator fans and enjoying the content. I was like, hey, we got something. Let's double down. And rest is history.
yeah.
now I've been watching Hightop Sports since like the first episode. Now, like I said, you started with Steve, Florida State fan. Then you almost died in the gym with Lorenzo Leonard. Like that was really funny. I ain't gonna lie. Now you're blowing up and expanding rapidly. To be honest with you, how was the journey been?
It's been cool. I think, you always hear people say to it, appreciate the journey and appreciate the process. I think that's something I try to remember. Cody, who's the professor, he's taken the Hightop Sports recruiting. We talk about all the time of like what this can be and where we hope for this to go. And we kind of laugh and joke. It's like, hey, these are the days we're gonna probably miss in all reality. Like just sitting here grinding away, like thinking of the big picture and what it could possibly be. That's the fun stuff. It's like when we pull the calculator up, you know what I mean? You're like, hey, this is what it could be. It's almost more fun than the actual result itself. So I try to enjoy it. I get a little stressed out at times because I'm impatient. I like things to happen very quickly.
Yeah,
So it's been a nice little tug of war of
Yeah.
appreciate what's happening, but also continue to grind and continue to push, and it'll come. Honestly, I found God here in the last couple of years, and that's been a big thing for me. Of just he's got a plan. You know what I mean? It'll happen how it's supposed to, and trust what's being laid out in front of you. And I've got to remind myself at all times, like, hey, he's got it. When the moment you feel like you have control is the moment that you're getting too far from God, and you got to line this thing back up. So,
Oh yeah, we're from the country, so that's really huge.
Definitely.
We're really huge when it comes to God and our religion and
so
ways.
hey, we in the Bible Belt.
Oh yeah, trust me.
We in it. We in it.
MG.
um, as far as like the creative process goes for you, what is the most rewarding thing about it, and what do you feel is the most stressful thing about it?
What stresses me out is when I get into, which is also, I guess, the rewarding. We've been working on a new website that we just rolled out. Those things stress me out because I'm not good at it,
Mhm.
and I like going into those things. I like learning it, because it's fun. It keeps it entertaining when you don't know what you're doing, but it also can be very annoying because I don't like for things to be messed up, especially when it's going to be in front of a lot of people. Obviously, Dave rags on me. I misspell things a lot. So, but thumbnails was something that I wasn't good at. So I took like a long time of like, okay, how do I want this to work, and studied it and got better at it and got better at it and got better at it. Everyone kind of just sees where it's at, but nobody sees the first few that just, sucked. So, though that's kind of the rewarding
Mm,
process, is
yeah,
that when it's hard and you know that it's hard, it's like, all right, I'm going to go dive into this and figure this thing out to where I can get better at it. A big thing for me was my voice, how I sound. I think the way that you sound and the way that you enunciate your
yeah,
words and podcast is huge. I hated the way that I sounded. I hated the way that I talked. And I think that that's something I've worked on, and I've grown, and I've learned to, and not that I kind of like talk about myself, but you have to be able to like the way that you sound to be confident when you're talking. I finally found I feel like I'm finding my voice with each
yeah,
and every episode, which is honestly a really cool thing for
yeah.
me. That so a really cool compliment was, somebody was like, I was walking down the street of Gainesville, and they're like, hey, I recognize that voice. And I was like, wow, that's cool. Because
Huh.
we were just talking with my grandpa. We were talking about Joe Buck. I love Joe Buck. When you hear Joe Buck's,
But yeah.
yeah, when you hear his voice, you
Mm,
feel something, right?
Oh
When you
yeah.
hear Mick, you know where you're at. It puts you in a
yeah.
moment. So when somebody said that, that was cool. That was like, hey,
Mm,
that's a huge compliment.
And to be honest, I've seen you grow because when you
yeah,
first started, it was more of like a buddy I was hanging with. You know what I mean?
Sure,
We were talking
sure.
football talk, and then you went from that to like, dude, I thought I was watching the White Shannon Sharp. You know what I mean? Like going at it with the stats, and then you bringing the energy, but also you keeping the swag you started with. You know what
Sure.
I mean? And that's what kept me coming back. To be
yeah.
honest.
I
Uh,
appreciate
um,
that. And Shannon,
yeah,
Shannon Sharp is a beast. I think
oh, yeah.
that's another hella compliment, man. I think he does a good job of
He's my
where he
favorite.
has,
Dude.
yeah, look, he's really grown on me, man. I think
Yeah.
he started off kind of just your swagger energy guy, but he's learning that, and you have to, right? You have to keep up with the big dogs, the riders,
Mhm.
right? The Daves, the Nick Del Tors. If you're gonna go toe to toe with these guys, you got to know what you're talking about. You can't just have the energy.
Got to have the
And
stats to back it.
what's that?
I said you
Yeah,
got to have the stats and the knowledge to back it.
yeah, yeah,
For sure.
But most
yeah,
of
yeah,
our fans
yeah. You got
was
to be like
focused
a,
on
you got to be
DJ
like a
Lagway. My
strong.
bad, MG. Most of our fans are focused on DJ Lagway.
No, 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 no. No, I just,
But I think Graham Mertz would take another step up. To be honest, do you see him possibly ending the year in all SEC type of year, or the next step?
Yeah, I'm really pumped about Graham Mertz. Obviously, we want DJ to do well and to do things, and I think it's all positive. I was always a big component of him sitting for a year,
Right.
and I think it's going to be beneficial. And the NFL is really bad, I believe, of throwing these guys into the wolves too quickly and putting an entire franchise on these guys. And it's the same way that college is getting into, because they're promising these kids they're going to start and fear they lose them. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I think
yeah,
Graham Mertz, again, we know what we were getting when he came from Wisconsin. There was a lot of question marks, a lot of concerns. That man balled out last year. If there was somebody that played for the Orange and Blue better than anybody, that was Graham Mertz.
yeah.
And I think another year into the system, another year of just getting in sync with these wide receivers, I think it can be something magical. I've got him in the top 5 quarterbacks for the SEC. And that's only because the other guys, again, are coming back with some hella talent around them.
MG.
Yeah. I would to beckon on that. I personally think we're going to use Lagway the same way that Urban used Tebow his freshman year. Like put him in here and there to not overwhelm him, but like give him, you know, give him a little bit of rest so he can get comfortable. Because this is a 5-star recruit, and kind of sort of like Quinten said the last episode, this was the only freshman quarterback coming in that Billy went after,
Sure.
like for the past like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you got an investment like that, you'll want to hold on to it. But how do you feel about this recruiting class like overall? Because like me personally, I feel that it's up there, not quite, but it's kind of sort of getting there. It's kind of sort of up there with the '07 class. Like how do you feel about the recruiting class so far?
Yeah, I'm extremely up on it. Again, I get kind of labeled as a Disney Gator and always optimistic, but what excites me is the quality of talent. We talk about it, and it kind of you saw at the end there, close to a top 10 class of On3 and ESPN. Obviously, everyone's top 5 class, but we're
Yeah,
6 commits short, which is an issue, right? That's a factor that you need to go out there and fix. Is like why can't we land a few more guys? And I'm not saying fill it with 3 stars. You should be able to land 3 or 4 more 4-star guys, which would have got us in that 6-7 spot, which you would have pleased the mass more because it would have fulfilled the need of like, hey, we finished with a top 6, top 5 class. The I've talked about it time and time again.
yeah,
You land 2 top 5 players. That's something that Florida hasn't done in how long? In a top 5, top 10 player, those guys are, day one impacts and can be possibly program changers. A guy that went to LSU. I can't. I'm
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
missing
So
names right now. The linebacker. We've talked about him time and time again. I mean, he's been an
uh,
impact
uh,
since
uh,
day one.
Harold.
What's that?
Perkins,
Yeah, Perk. Thank you, Perk and Harold
Perkins,
Perkins.
Harold Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, incredible talent. I mean, there's plenty more that I just remember him because one, he was a Gator, close to being a Gator, and we see him in the SEC. And I'm watching him the last 2 years has been an absolute. It's just fun to watch. I love watching good players.
Oh yeah. Now,
And,
this one,
and,
this is a personal question. On my back, Trader.
I'm sorry, but did, Sheldon, did you know that Lagway is like the second highest rated quarterback recruit that we've ever had, other than Brock Burton? Did you know that?
I did not know that. The second highest rated behind who?
Brock Burton, he was in the 2000 class.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He
Okay, bro.
he
Yeah.
ended up going to Miami, but like he is the 12th highest overall recruit ever, and he's the second highest overall quarterback we've ever recruited. Higher than Jeff Driscoll, higher than Tim Tebow, higher than all them dudes.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah,
You didn't know that?
I did. And look, I remember like again, Tebow, we know what the specimen that he was, but Jeff Driscoll was, I remember him coming out, like people were going absolute,
Crazy.
he was the bird's beast coming out. I mean, people were going absolutely berserk for that.
Yeah,
And obviously we know what it ended up being, but yeah, that's huge. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. That's even more
yeah,
back in what
yeah,
I've saying of like why
yeah,
people should be excited. But
With me, man, like I'm a huge Graham Mertz
yeah,
fan.
yeah.
I love DJ Lagway, but I feel like we shouldn't put so much pressure on the kid. He's a freshman. He should learn how to be a quarterback in the first place in the SEC. Like you can't just step in and imagine this kid's gonna. I don't care what he's ranked coming out of high school. He's not gonna be that day one starting in college.
sure.
My next question is a very personal one, man. I was watching Billy Napier press conference, which is blowing up all over Twitter right now. Everything sound the same. We are huge, huge supporters of Billy Napier, so let's not get that misconstrued at all. My problem and my huge
Yeah,
problem, you
yeah.
already know what I'm gonna say, was Rob Sell.
Sure.
Rob Sell is, I'm sorry, brother. I'm a huge Gator fan, and I am, the biggest supporter it is. But when it comes to Rob Sell, that's the thorn in my foot, man. Like the only way this man kept his job is because he knows his wife well. That's the only way I could think that this man kept his job. I'm sorry. Like him and Billy got to be like me and MG. Like I will go against all of y'all and say, yeah, I'll think of a reason to keep him on the job. So I get it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But so how do you feel about us bringing back all of them personally, Rob Sell?
Yeah, look, I said on the show, because I'm always in defense of Billy as well, but the Rob Sell was a head scratcher. When you go and you fire 2 defensive coordinators due to production, yet you keep 2 coaches or one of the coaches that led an offensive line that was ranked 131st out of 132nd. I've got questions. Now, you can back it with the fact that 2 years ago it was one of the best offensive line that Florida had ever seen. And I'm also seeing arguments, and I agree with, well, you had Torrance who carried a lot of the load, and I think the ability that AR being able to roll out kind of, gave them some
Yeah,
slack as well. They weren't having to be as lights out, let's say, as they should be because they're guarding half the time, right? So a lot of things to look at. But I took a look into it too because I'm trying to see, like, you made all these changes. You were literally telling me that you were trying to throw everything at this thing because he's a big Mark Hawk guy. And Nick Del Toro came on our show and says he sees no way that Mark Hawk's going to go. It's unheard of to fire your strength and conditioning coach because you hand the team off to those guys, literally. And he did that. So if you're willing, and to me, I compared it to cutting off of your right leg. Like that was getting Mark Hawk. That was more severe than people want to give credit to. You want to yell at Rob Sale, and I understand that, but the Mark Hawk was a huge one. And so I'm looking like, what are we missing? Because you cut off your right leg with this fire. You're not afraid to do something drastic. I went and looked at when Louisiana, when Rob Sale was there, they had, I think, the top 15th overall offensive line at Louisiana. That's going up against the Michigans, the Georgias, the Bama. They're top 15th in 2020, the year before I believe they came here. Or 2 years before, I think, because he was at the Giants. So he has production, and Rob Sale was the offensive line coach at Louisiana during that time. And Torrance was a big part of that. Again, a 3-star recruit that nobody cared about until, this past that last year. So, and also, again, what supports that, look at the offensive line. We went out and got two positions, tackles, a place we had not recruited well. We're going all in on Najee Harris, which was a recruit 2 years ago who I love dearly. I've had him on the show. Phenomenal young man. I mean, phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough of this kid. Then you got the center position with Jake Slaughter, who made Ngakoue, who's getting kind of obliterated at the Senior Bowl, lose his position. And then you got Big Rod, who was also a 4-star recruit last year. They all in on him, right? And then so that's to me telling like, hey, we trust the line. And you got Fletcher Westphal. We'll see if he gets some playing time as well. Going all in on it. So you kind of have to appreciate and respect it. It's like, look, I trust my process. We had guys that didn't want to be here. We got rid of them. Richie Leonard, you gotta scratch your head on that one. He was our most, outside of Slaughter, probably our most experienced guy, and we let him walk. Plain and simple, we let him walk.
yeah.
Why?
That was money related. That was
Yeah, but why? But why? Right? And so, look, I'm not saying that they're right. I'm not saying that they're right, but they're going all in on the fact that they think they know it's better, and I feel like you have to have that mindset. Now, whether it works out or not, time will tell.
Yeah. MG?
Um, th- this is kind of sort of going to be a personal preference question as well, but in your opinion, who do you feel is the most underrated Florida Gator
Oh yeah,
and the greatest Florida Gator?
that's been huge on Twitter. Right?
All
As
time, all
far as you
time.
can,
It's been an argument though. It's been an
yeah,
argument on
as
Twitter
far as
right
you
now
want to
going
go,
around about underrated.
as far as you want to go back.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. There is no like wrong answer to that. On Twitter, everybody's wrong.
Yeah, look, I mean, for greatest skater, I've said this. Like, obviously, I can't go back to like the Spurrier days. I didn't watch them, so there's going to be a gap here. But and for the Warfels and all those things, for me, from what I've seen, greatest skater, one of my favorite. This is my personal favorites. I love Matt Elam. I love Vernon Hargraves. Personal, I think Gator great. It's Percy Harvin. Even during that time, like I always, as a kid growing up, I kind of like in a way, and it kind of came out of Swamp Kings a little bit. I always say this. I'm like, y'all be giving Tebow too much love, man. Percy, that dog. And so I've always been a big Percy guy.
Oh man, I,
What's that?
I love I love Shelton. I love Shelton, man. Because
Yeah,
like I'll be I'll be telling people Tebow was great, but at the same time, you got Percy Harvin, Aaron Hernandez, Emmanuel Moody, Louis Murphy, Cornelius Ingram, the Pouncey twins on the line.
We knew.
How can you not be successful with all with an offense like that? Not taking nothing away from him, but the weapons that he was surrounded with was amazing.
So
yeah. It's just
oh my bad.
And like me, go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like I said, nothing. It's nothing. Not when you pick one player, you're not. It's not that you're trying to downplay anybody. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
it's just an eye test. It's a way
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
makes you feel when you watch him. That was what Percy did, man. He just, in my opinion, you touch the ball, he changed the game. As a Tebow, but the real reality of it is that one was marketable and one wasn't as marketable. And that's kind of, I think, what it boils down to. It was more exciting to talk about Tim
Yeah.
Tebow, and Percy had his things on. I know, getting in fights with coaches and stuff. Like, you always want to talk about that, and that is what it is. But I kind of love that dog mentality. I've always appreciated that. So, as for underrated though, man,
Yeah.
that one's
I I I personally think it's Cornelius Ingram.
Yeah, that
That's
was
just me.
mine was Jaquez Green. That was just my pick.
okay. Underrated. I mean, I felt like Matt Elam was one of my favorites. I don't know if he wasn't really like, I mean, he kind of went high in the draft. I think he went
He wasn't
first or
like that, but he is very underrated.
yeah, but he wasn't like highly loved for a Florida fan's
Yeah,
perspective. Like,
yeah.
he's not talked about, and he was actually a damn good player. Like I said, he didn't do much in the NFL, but
In
he was
college,
one of those guys. Yeah, dude, he was
When
so
he was
fun to
here.
watch. Like, guys that, like, that's why I love the Vernon, right? Like, they just Matt Elam to me was Major Wright reincarnated as best as he possibly could. Like, I'm not trying to compare the two, but like, that was the closest thing that you could get to him once again. Like, he
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
played with
yeah.
his,
I agree.
like, his head was cut off. He didn't care who he was gonna hit, and I loved watching him play. I like loved watching him play. So I would put him in my as my most underrated because nobody talks about him.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He rarely gets talked about, man. Like, cause he was. I think the stigma is if you don't do great in the NFL, kind of sort of like you said, if you're not likable and marketable, if you don't do great in the NFL, we kind of like sweep you under the rug a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
because
as far as like how great you were for the program.
I'm pretty sure he was a first round draft pick with like 32nd, I think,
He
with
went to the
the
Ravens
Ravens.
first round. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, 32nd. Look at
yeah,
that.
actually
See,
yeah.
I know, I know,
I
I know,
think
I
you.
know, dog. I know my boy.
I, I, I think it was 2013 he got drafted
Yeah, and then he
because
got
I
he got
think he
banned for a
got
game in
drafted.
2015 for substance abuse. So had a bumpy NFL career, but he
that.
was a dogging.
Before I let you get out of here, brother, I have to tell you a story about the Pouncey twins, and we
Mm,
know what the Gators would look like when we get back to the championship. We have a best friend, our brother Travis, who went to school with all the dreadnoughts from the Pounceys to Chris Rainey to they literally would be in Lakeland like hanging out. The half of the Gator football team. It was just the hood thing. They got free food, free everything there.
sure.
One day we was hanging out and you never realized Chris Rainey honestly is like my height. It's crazy how
Yeah,
talented he was.
he's
My height.
kind of small. Like, it's like
Yeah.
when you meet him, you're like, damn, bro,
Oh
you
yeah.
play ball. I
Yeah,
could have played.
So we're in the studio and we're hanging out and he
yeah,
invites the Pouncey twins over.
Yeah,
Correct? My brother, I played sports and I'm seeing some big people in my life, man. But when Mike walked through that door and the dude looked it up and down and had to turn sideways and then step one by one to get in the room, I was like, bro, this man ain't human. There's no way this guy is human. Dude, when I say like an offensive lineman back then, them boys had like muscles with the belly. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
muscles everywhere. So like I said, in my opinion, we are far from where we was, but we are gonna get back to it. My last question that I have for you is: do you see Billy turning it around? Because I really believe in him if given enough time.
I mean, I hate it to say it, but I mean, because people hate me for it. But I look, man, I don't know what it is. I have this like just like overwhelming feeling in my gut that like this is the guy. I don't know. I trust him. Like I look like from the small interactions we have through press conferences, like I trust what he's saying. I believe what he's saying. I can see what's happening, and I believe we're there. He's trying to build something that's sustainable. That isn't just kind of one and done. Rip it off the band-aid, make it, figure this thing out. Like the people I've interviewed a handful of these players. I've interviewed the guys coming in. I've interviewed guys that are there. There is a commonality with all of them,
Oh yeah.
all of them. And I've interviewed the ones that have left. And when they all left, I kind of was like, yeah, I I felt it. Like it makes it make I I could see where you wouldn't have fit into the culture. To be honest with you, like I've had an interview, like great, they're all kids. I'm not trying to like rag on anybody, but like I've interviewed this chunk and I've interviewed this chunk and this chunk. It's like, okay, this kid moved on. I was like, yeah, I could see probably why it didn't work out. It doesn't surprise me. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I work like Lorenzo, dude. I love that guy to death. I still message him to this day. Like him, in my opinion, really and BJ Lagway encompass what they're trying to build there, and it takes time. But I'm a firm believer. I just hopefully the mob gives him enough time. I don't know if they will. And look, he can't have forever. He can't have forever, right?
Yeah,
That's a fair thing too.
it is the
So
universal sport. So yeah, I understand. I agree
But
with you, though. I believe
yeah,
it.
I, but me, Shelton, I personally think, and I've been telling Quentin this, I personally feel like you should give Billy enough time to get his guys in there because how can you properly judge him when Trey Dean is your starting strong safety? You know what I'm
sure.
saying?
I
Like
told
let him get his guys, let let him get his guys in there, and then like year 5 or like year 5 or whatever, like we can properly judge it because it's like okay, you've had enough time to get your guys that you want in there. So if this still doesn't work, it's your fault because these are your guys. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't like don't like try to like they're trying to get him thrown out after year 2 or 3, and it's just like you haven't given the guy enough time. Like look at what Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss. They gave him time, and he's building something there, something special. And he had the number 1 transfer recruiting class.
Yep.
Many different. You give these guys time to build, and then you judge them properly. Don't because I guess they're not getting the results that they want right now. So like it's like okay, well we gonna throw out the trash in a sense because we're not going 9-3. But it's practically like a program. We're having like a program of I guess you could say a program cleans. Like we're starting over practically in a
Sure.
sense because Mullen left us in the storm.
And this, I would argue this year, and we talked about it last time on the show, is probably the first year that, he's got a good base. His first class is going into their third
Yeah,
year, right? Trevor Etienne would have been a part of that class. He has
yeah,
his class from last year going into their second year, and then probably the best class he's had thus far. Hopefully, these guys I think can make an impact right away. So he's going to have a little bit of it this year. Something what's interesting, I watched a video today of Josh Pate 3 years ago ranting and raving about Billy Napier. It was a whole thing of like who's going to be basically who can close this guy. How DeBoer was when Bama hired DeBoer, and everyone's like, "This is the hottest thing since sliced bread." That's what Billy Napier was 3 years ago when he was coming from Louisiana. He turned down LSU, he turned down Ole Miss, and he turned down South Carolina because he wanted a bigger opportunity. And 3 years ago, it was even when Florida hired him, Florida fans are still kind of in shock. But in the coaching world, it was like this is the next big thing. If this was this was a splash higher in a sense 3 years ago. Let it run its course, I think. And look, I mean, the problem is he's made some dumb mistakes on the football field that I can't defend either, and I understand those things. So those things have to get fixed. You got to fix the small stuff. If you're claiming to be this expert
yeah,
and this executive CEO,
yeah.
I well, I'll defend you to you, Blue. And if I'll tell some lies like nobody ever heard, Billy. Okay, I promise you that. But if you're putting 13 guys on the football field, Billy, like I could do that. You know what I mean? Like pay me 5 million. I'll send out 9. Like I'll send out 11. So those things got to get fixed.
But we love you, Billy. But I
We
promise
love you, but figure the shit out.
you. Man,
Yeah,
we don't want to take
yeah.
up too much of your time, brother. We really
I go to
appreciate
bed.
you being on, man. And hopefully we can get you back on
Yeah,
again, brother, very, very soon. We appreciate taking up as much time as we have, man. And I'm sorry for that. But it was good talking to you, brother.
No, dude, this was great. You guys were fantastic. This was a blast. It felt like I've talked to you a million times, which I haven't. Obviously, it's our first time. So you guys were great. I appreciate you asking me and working with my schedule, man. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, of course, man. Again, welcome to Deep in the
yeah,
Swamp. And I know MG feels the same way. You're always welcome to the barbecue, brother. You're always welcome to the barbecue.
I love it. I love it. That's
You have a
awesome.
good night,
Appreciate it.
my brother.
You guys as well. Thank you. Go Gators.
Go Gators.